Welcome to this video tutorial today where we're talking about video narration. You might have noticed, but these days, video narration has become the way to get your message across. In fact, in many ways, it's the combination of everything we've been doing this semester. Whether you think of sounds, if you think of graphic imagery, if you think of transitions, if you think of how we use music, the important thing we're doing is we're telling a story. And that's what we do with almost everything that we want to present. We call it the narrative arc. The idea of the narrative arc is setting the context, establishing your characters, setting up what the big conflict is going to be, and how it eventually gets resolved. Anything we ever do, from an actual story to just providing information, is really set up with a narrative arc. And the reason why is that it captures our imagination. If you think about it, stories are kind of central to the human experience. It's what our parents told us in order for us to go to bed late at night. It's what ancient civilizations used to tell about their origins. It's why we like going to movies today. And the good news is today there are so many platforms by which you can tell a story. We know that these days, everything from YouTube to TikTok to Instagram is a way for us to tell our story, tell our brand. But how do we make these stories? Something like what I'm doing right now. Well, there's some sites that you can use. Some of them cost a lot of money, but there's a free one that makes it really easy for you to create a story, a documentary to tell your story. And it's called WeVideo. And that's what we're going to look at today. Welcome to WeVideo. WeVideo is a great free resource that you can use in order to create your video narrations, your documentaries. When you get to WeVideo, it's going to look something like this. And what we're going to want to do is to create a new project. So all I have to do is go over to the Create button. And once I do that, it's going to take me to my workstation or my dashboard that I'm going to be working on. Now, no matter what, in any type of video system you ever use, some of the common terminology that's used is panels. So we're going to notice here that there are several different panels that we want to become familiar with because this is going to help us to do our work. Up here on the top left-hand side is the panel where we upload video and we upload media that we can use within our WeVideo. On the right-hand side, in the upper right-hand side, is going to be the panel that allows us to see how that's looking as we go along. So we're not going to see the finished product until we're all done, but it gives us sort of like a peek into what that finished product is starting to look like. Down at the bottom is a really important area. It's called the tracks. Basically, any system you're ever going to use, whether it's for podcasting or if it's for video narration, tracks are really important. Tracks is where you do all of your work as far as editing goes. So let's quickly go over, though, to the left-hand side, because the top left-hand side is going to give us all of our tools, or we can call this sort of the toolbar of what we're going to use. First, we have uploads. This is where we're going to upload our information. Videos. Now, this is really pretty cool. We're going to see in a minute. Videos is where you can actually get stock videos you can insert into your WeVideo creation. Images, that's where you can just get basic images you want to put in. Audio, they have a ton in their library of basically music you can put into your video. Text is where we're going to type in our text. Transitions is really good because it allows us to transition from one slide to the next, make our video look a little bit more interesting. And then there's some extras and backgrounds that we can use if we want to place in as placeholders or ways that we can transition. So what we're going to do right now is we're actually going to build a video. And anybody who knows me knows I love the movie Star Wars, or the movies Star Wars in those series. So we're going to make a quick presentation on Star Wars to demonstrate how we can use WeVideo. Okay, so the very first thing we're going to need to do is to upload some media that we want to use, and it's really easy to do. I have some media on my computer, so I'm just going to go over to upload right now, and all I have to do is import in the media that I want. So I'm just going to go to Browse Select, and you'll notice I have 3 posters here about Star Wars that I want to put in, so I can basically just do Shift on each one of those, and I can open those up, and as soon as I do that, it's really easy. It just drops them right into my right into that top left-hand panel. Now, at this point, it's not in my presentation because this isn't necessarily what I want to be in my presentation, but I can drag and drop what I want to my presentation. So if I want to use this very first one, I can drag it down to where it says video down the track, and now it's down there. Now, before I put anything else, I want to make sure that I have a transition to my next one, right? So I can go over to transitions, and I can choose from a whole assortment of transitions that will move me from that first slide to the next. So I'm going to use, for example, crossfade, and I'm just going to bring that in. As soon as it turns green, I know that that is there. Now, I want to put in my next slide, so I'm going to go back up to uploads, and I'm going to bring in my next video and lock that in right next to there, and bam, there we go. Now, here's what it looks like when I do when I'm going to do this. So basically, you're going to see that it's going to do that transition for us where it just fades right into, or cross blurs right into the next one. Okay, really simple kind of stuff. But let's say for a moment that I want to make this a little bit more interesting. I want to bring in a video of Star Wars. Now I go to my videos. I'm just going to type into my search bar up here, Star Wars, and I get a whole bunch of stuff that I could use off of this. So I'm a big fan of Yoda, so we're going to take a look and see how that goes. It's a nice little statue of Yoda there. So I could use that, and the only thing I don't really like about the whole Yoda statue is not much movement. So instead, I'm going to go to these stormtroopers over here. Here I get kind of a funny one about stormtroopers, okay, as they are kind of dancing and doing their stuff. So that one looks kind of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down inside of the video. And now I've got that. Now again, though, I don't really want that to be so abrupt. So I don't want to go from this right into the video. I want to have some kind of transition. So I go back over the transitions. And this time I think I'm going to use a cross zoom. So I go ahead and put that in and wait for it to be green. And once I have that, all I have to do is bam, it creates a transition for me, and I've moved right over into that video. Okay, so now at this point, though, I want to try and narrate this, right? I want to be able to say something about this. So what I do is I'm going to move my cursor back to the start, and then I'm going to go up to my uploads again. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to narrate what's going on with this. So I'm going to go over to narrate. And when I do that, so now I get to narrate what I want to say about each one of these slides, right? So I'm going to start with something about, Star Wars is a great movie series. It started back in the 1970s. And it's grown to this huge franchise. Hey, it's even become a little bit something that people get to have a little bit of light humor about as well. So we can see with those dancing stormtroopers off at a convention, right? Okay. So now I've stopped it. I can go ahead and save it and watch what's going to happen here as I narrated. So now I get to narrate what I want to say about each one of these slides, right? So I'm going to start with something about, Star Wars is a great movie series. It started back in the 1970s. And it's grown to this huge franchise. Hey, it's even become a little bit something that people get to have a little bit of light humor. Okay, so you notice I get to narrate over it, but this is still kind of boring to me, right? I want to have some music that's coming in at the beginning. I want to have some music that's coming in at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some music in. Now I want to move these slides over so that the music can come before it. So what I do is I shift and I hold down and I drag it over all of them. That allows me to drag these out. Now what I can do is go up to audio. And I want to find some kind of music that would work well with this. Well, okay, this is Star Wars, so it's kind of epic. So I've got a whole bunch of options. I can do inspiring, epic, sad, happy, dark. I mean, there's a ton, right? But I'm going to go ahead and go with epic. I'm going to click on See All, and I'm going to choose one of these. So let's just say for a moment that I want to choose this one. See how this sounds. Yeah, it sounds pretty good. So now all I have to do is take that and drag it down. And now I've got that music. Now, you might be wondering, you might take a look at this and go, well, wait a second. You can see that that's kind of a long piece of music, right? It's going to cover over all of my narration. I don't want to see that happen. It's really simple. So this is a huge tool to use with this, and it's an editing tool. All you have to do is go to, you notice how there's this purple box around here. Go there, and you can drag it all the way back to where you want it to be at. So I'm going to have it be right before I come in and talk, right there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to expand on this just so I can see it where it's at. And I basically am going to be able to have music that comes in right before I talk. So let's see how the franchise. Hey, it's even. So you'll notice here that the music can kind of go. It's grown to this huge franchise. Hey. And we can basically have where the music is not going to be over the whole time that I'm talking. Now, you might have noticed, though, there was a little bit where the music was a little bit too loud for what I was talking, right? So if I go all the way back to the beginning here. So now I get to narrate. So right around here is where my narration started, right? How do we make sure that's not going to overwhelm my talking? Well, actually, it's pretty easy. All I have to do, I go in here and I press on audio and opacity. And I want to show that level. I want to show where I'm at off of that. And then all I have to do, press Option on Mac, okay, and I can actually create these track buttons. And by doing that, here's what I'm going to do. Once I create these track buttons, I can actually manipulate my sound so that it fades out over time. So again, it's going to be Option on Mac to do that. Now you notice on this very last one here, I'm going to have to go to the end. and make sure that I do this as well down here so I can bring it down. And that's going to allow me to fade so that it doesn't overwhelm my narration that I want to say about each one of these slides, right? So notice here, if I use that audio and opacity, I can edit, and all I have to do is use Option, and I can make those little track symbols so that I can come down as far as that goes. Okay, now at the very end of the video, obviously I don't want it to just kind of end abruptly. I want to make sure that there's some kind of like transition to the very end. So here's how I do that. There's a number of ways you can do that. You could do a background. So I could just take like a background and put that down here at the end. That's a possibility. I'm not going to do that though. What I like to do is I like to go to videos, and I like to find a video that I think is going to be like a great ending. So let's see if I can find something with that here that I think might be really good. So we could do right here at the end. I could put that down in the end and have a transition like we had before. So kind of like a cross zoom. Okay, and that way I've got a nice ending here at the end. And I can always put in too some music there as well and edit that so I can make it really kind of like a nice end to the whole thing. And of course this is way too long, and so I can come down and do what I did before. I can just drag it back into the amount that I want it off of that and do that. So the great thing about WeVideo, there's so much that you can do with this, and it really it's so now that we have all this, what about text? What if I want to make sure, for example, back on this poster over here, that I have some text that tells my story a little bit. So I go over to text, and I'm going to have a ton of options that I can choose from. I can choose basically titles, captions, multi-line, seasonal, special. All of these are possibilities. Now I'm going to choose captions just because there's a lot going on inside of this poster. But let's say I want to have something that's going to show up pretty nicely. So I'm going to choose this one as far as this caption is. All I have to do is drag that down on top here, and you notice that the purple here, and that allows me to edit this so it's not going to be past where I want. And then I can go ahead and I can type into this box a description. So I can say, you know, Star Wars, the original. Okay, and off of that then I could change how it's going to show up as far as my font goes. Okay, I can adjust the font size. Okay, and I can change the position. I can also change the animation off of this as well, about where the start position is going to be at and where the end position. So let's say that, you know, I don't want this to be up there at the beginning, but in the end position, I do. Okay, all I have to do is that, and then press done, and watch what's going to happen. This is actually going to be pretty cool because it's going to allow it to kind of come in. Have a little bit of light humor about it as well, so we can see with those dancing stormtroopers off. And I could play that in a way that, play around with that in a way that makes it go a little bit faster as well. So anyway, at the very end of this whole project then, I want to export the project, and you can do that up here. And once you've exported the project, you can then use that as a way to tell your stories. That is WeVideo. WeVideo is so exciting. You can play around with it, and it's free, and it's such a great way to create videos, put those out there as documentaries or as stories for people to be able to see. I'm going to have a whole series of tutorials from WeVideo itself. WeVideo puts out a library of tutorials, and I'm hoping that those tutorials help you throughout the week to build your project that you're going to be working on. So this is not going to be your only tutorial to work with. Okay, have some fun, be creative, build your story, build your documentary.